Why was the air so still, yet so loud at the same time? The alarm screamed through concrete walls, red strobes flashing like heartbeats on overdrive, and somewhere between those pulses stood a woman who didn't belong, or maybe, one who belonged more than anyone else. Jade Morgan didn't flinch when the blast doors sealed behind her, didn't react to the soldiers shouting, to boots pounding the floor, to the chaos that always follows when trained men realize something's wrong in their fortress. She just stood there, a single figure in gray and combat boots, her hair tied up carelessly, her eyes still and unreadable. Calm, too calm. Across the corridor, a veteran named Rodriguez turned, muscle memory kicking in faster than thought. 23 years in special warfare had hardwired him to react before emotion could interfere. His hand dropped to his sidearm, stance wide, voice like gravel against steel. "Hey you, hands where I can see them." She turned slowly, deliberately, not startled, not defensive, just measuring, like someone taking in variables, distance, angles, personnel count, potential exits. The sort of composure you only earned after years of walking through crosshairs. "I have orders from command," she said. Her tone wasn't pleading. It wasn't commanding either. It was level, steady, Midwest vowels softening the edges, but nothing soft in the way she looked at him. Rodriguez's instincts flared with unease. "Orders, huh? That's funny, because I'm pretty sure command didn't mention a civilian strolling in during a lockdown." He barked into his radio. "Alpha Team, possible intruder, Sector 7, female, mid-30s, claims command authorization, no ID." The response crackled back through static. "Copy that, moving." But Jade didn't move, didn't blink, just watched him the way soldiers sometimes watch incoming fire, detached, assessing, ready to act only if absolutely necessary. Within minutes, more boots thundered through the hall. Captain Lisa Hayes rounded the corner first, her uniform immaculate, her posture sharpened by years of proving herself in rooms full of men who doubted her right to lead. One look at Jade, and her expression soured. "Rodriguez, tell me you didn't just find a stray tourist in the middle of a security lockdown." "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Rodriguez growled. "She says she's got orders, but no paperwork, no ID, no escort, nothing." Hayes crossed her arms, the gesture cutting. "Lady, this is a restricted area. People don't just walk in here unless they're very stupid or very dangerous. Which are you?" Jade didn't respond. She shifted the medical bag in her hand, setting it beside her boot. It was old, worn, scuffed from travel. Rodriguez's eyes flicked down to it, then back to her. "Open it," he ordered. Her hand hesitated for a fraction of a second, long enough to register. Then she knelt, unzipped it with surgical precision. The contents gleamed under the red lights, gauze, instruments, syringes, all lined up like soldiers in formation. The kind of arrangement that comes from habit, not hobby. Thompson, the facility's security technician, stepped forward, his tablet already scanning her biometrics. No matches in the system, no scheduled contractors, no record of anyone fitting her description. "So what's she doing here?" Hayes snapped. Jade lifted her eyes, "Protecting classified intelligence." Rodriguez let out a sharp laugh. "Protecting? Lady, you don't look like you could protect yourself from a strong breeze. You got any idea where you are?" She didn't reply, but Martinez, a young Marine who'd been quietly observing from the side, noticed something strange. The way her feet were planted, the even distribution of weight, the line of sight she maintained with all three exits. It wasn't random. It was training, advanced, deliberate, ingrained. "Sir," Martinez started cautiously, "maybe we should." Rodriguez cut him off. "Maybe you should shut your mouth, Marine." The red strobes flickered again, bouncing shadows off Jade's face. For a moment, Martinez swore he saw something behind those green eyes, not fear, not arrogance. Something else. Calculation. Then the facility commander arrived. Sergeant Major Morrison, the kind of man whose mere presence straightened spines. His voice carried authority like a storm. "What's the situation?" Rodriguez stepped forward. "Sir, unidentified female, no clearance, no authorization, claims she has orders from command." Morrison's gaze cut to Jade. "Ma'am, identify yourself." "I can't discuss specifics without proper clearance verification." Hayes snorted. "Proper clearance, that's cute." The crowd had grown: Marines, support staff, techs, all curious, all watching the confrontation unfold like a slow-motion detonation. Someone whispered, "Check her bag again." Rodriguez seized on the idea. "Ma'am, open it, again, everything out." Jade didn't argue. She unpacked her supplies methodically: gauze, clamps, IV tubing, morphine kits, each piece arranged perfectly parallel. Thompson leaned closer, his tone shifting. "Sir, these aren't civilian medical packs. These are organized by field triage protocol, military grade." Hayes scoffed. "You can buy anything online these days." But Martinez's mind was racing. Every tool was arranged for instant reach, top-tier trauma setup, the kind that saved lives in chaos. Morrison's tone softened just slightly. "Where did you train, ma'am?" "Various locations," Jade answered. "Not good enough," Hayes barked. Before anyone could press further, the alarm tone changed, long blares turning into pulses, the sign of an evolving breach. Thompson glanced at his tablet. "Sir, we've got movement in Sector 12. Possible intrusion near the server room." Morrison's voice cut through the noise. "All units converge on Sector 12. Rodriguez, hold position with the suspect. We'll sort her out after." And just like that, half the crowd scattered, leaving Rodriguez and a few others guarding the mysterious woman. "Well, looks like it's just us now," he said with a smirk. "You want to tell me what's really going on, sweetheart?" "Nothing." He circled her, a lion testing the bars of its cage. "You think you can just waltz in here with a fake badge and a fancy med kit? I've seen better undercover work in movies." She didn't flinch, didn't even blink. "Let me guess," he continued, leaning close enough to smell the faint trace of antiseptic on her clothes. "You're one of those wannabe types. Stolen valor. You watch a few documentaries, play soldier for a day. That it?" Jade's jaw tensed, not in fear, in restraint. "Sir," Martinez started again, his gut churning. "Maybe." "Enough," Rodriguez barked. But the young Marine couldn't shake it. Something about her demeanor, that unwavering calm, didn't belong to a fraud. It belonged to someone who'd been in situations where calm was the only thing keeping you alive. Then everything changed. Thompson reappeared, pale, tablet trembling in his hand. "Sir, the breach isn't random, it's coordinated. Multiple access points, all timed perfectly. Whoever's doing this knows our layout." Rodriguez's grip tightened on his weapon, "and she shows up right before it starts. Convenient." Thompson hesitated. "There's more. I ran her partial biometrics again. The system flagged restricted access." "What's that mean?" Hayes asked. "It means," Thompson said slowly, "her data's locked behind black-level clearance." The hallway went quiet. Black-level clearance was above any of them, reserved for deep-cover operatives, experimental programs, and ghosts the government didn't officially admit existed. "Who are you?" Morrison asked again, his voice lower now. Jade's reply was the same, calm, controlled. "I'm here to protect classified intelligence." Rodriguez scoffed. "Lady, the only thing you're protecting right now is your own lie." But Martinez noticed something new, the faint sheen of sweat on her temple, not from fear, but from pain. Her left shoulder hung just slightly lower, like she was guarding an old injury. The medical bag wasn't just her prop, it was her lifeline. Then the gunfire started, distant, muffled, real, not a drill. Morrison's radio erupted. "Multiple hostiles confirmed. Repeat, multiple hostiles inside the facility." Hayes looked at Jade. "What do you know about this?" Jade's gaze didn't waver, enough to tell you that if you waste another minute arguing, people will die. Rodriguez stepped forward, fury overtaking reason. You threatening us now. I'm warning you, she said softly. Her tone wasn't defiant, it was weary. The kind of tone soldiers used when they'd given the same warning too many times and watched people die for ignoring it. Then Thompson's tablet pinged again. Sir, intercepted enemy comms, they're looking for someone. Code designation Angel 7. Every eye turned toward Jade. She didn't move, but Martinez swore he saw her chest tighten just slightly. Angel 7, Hayes repeated. That's classified beyond top level. How would you? Before she could finish, Jade spoke. Quiet, controlled, final. They're not looking for something, she said. They're looking for someone. The air went still. Rodriguez frowned. And who exactly would that be? Jade met his eyes. Angel 7 isn't a code, it's a person. The realization struck them like a physical blow. Somewhere deep in the building, gunfire echoed again, closer this time. Screams followed. The situation was spiraling. And for the first time, Rodriguez felt the faint, cold edge of doubt. Because the way she'd said it, the way she carried herself. He was starting to wonder if the woman he just mocked might be the most dangerous, or the most vital person in the entire building. How did it come to this? A woman with no name standing in the middle of a Navy SEAL training facility while trained soldiers aimed weapons at her, uncertain whether to protect her or arrest her. The chaos outside had quieted to a distant thunder, but tension here was suffocating. Rodriguez stood rigid, weapon half drawn, eyes flicking between Jade and the corridor where the gunfire echoed like a bad memory refusing to fade. Morrison's voice broke the silence. Angel 7, he repeated under his breath, as if saying it out loud would make it less impossible. That designation was erased years ago. Hayes's voice sharpened. It's not erased, it's sealed, and no one here has the clearance to even say it. Jade didn't move, then stopped saying it. Rodriguez glared. You seem to know a lot about this, sweetheart. You want to explain how that's possible. She didn't look at him, because I lived it. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then Thompson's tablet pinged with a shrill alert. Sir, multiple hostiles confirmed in sectors 10, 11, and 12. They're converging on the main server room. Looks like a hostage situation forming. Morrison barked orders into his radio. Rodriguez, Hayes, you're with me. Thompson, lock down internal access. Martinez, guard the detainee. Rodriguez hesitated. Sir, with respect. Do it, Morrison snapped. And they moved, boots hammering the floor. The moment they vanished, the room felt colder, quieter, more dangerous. Only Martinez, Jade, and Elena Vasquez, a medic who'd slipped in from the infirmary, remained. Elena's eyes darted between the two. What's going on here? Who are you? Jade looked at her, a faint kindness softening her otherwise hard expression. You're medical, she said. Yes, Lieutenant Elena Vasquez, base trauma surgeon. Then you already know, Jade said quietly, that some wounds don't show up on scans. Martinez frowned. Ma'am, that's not an answer. No, Jade admitted, it's a warning. She looked past him, toward the sealed blast door at the far end of the corridor, the one separating them from the gunfire. Martinez noticed the way her gaze lingered there, how her shoulders subtly squared. He realized she wasn't afraid of what was coming. She was preparing for it. The radio crackled, Rodriguez's voice clipped and urgent. Command, we've got 10 hostiles confirmed. They've taken personnel from the server room. They're demanding. Static then, they're demanding Angel 7. Elena's face went pale. Martinez looked at Jade. Ma'am, why are they asking for you? Jade didn't answer right away. When she finally did, her voice was steady but distant, like she was remembering something rather than explaining it. 3 years ago, A classified operation stopped a terrorist group from detonating a bomb at a refugee camp in Syria. Over 300 civilians survived because of that mission, but not everyone walked away. Elena stepped closer. You were there. Jade's eyes flickered toward her. I was the medic assigned to the unit that intercepted the truck. And Angel 7, Martinez asked. Jade's expression hardened. Was the unit lead, the medic-sniper hybrid responsible for field trauma and overwatch? Elena frowned. Hybrid, that's not even a recognized specialization. It wasn't, Jade said softly, until Angel 7 made it one. The weight in her tone made both of them still. There was something about the way she said it, the quiet grief behind it, that made Elena's breath catch. Ma'am, Martinez said, his voice softening, you're not talking about some file, you're talking about yourself. Before she could answer, the blast door at the corridor's far end shuddered. A muffled explosion shook the walls. Martinez spun, weapon raised. Thompson's voice came through the radio, panicked. We've got breaches across multiple sectors. They're inside the command wing. Jade's demeanor changed instantly. Calm turned to command. She reached into her medical bag and withdrew something small, a compact, matte black sidearm, its serials scrubbed. Ma'am, Martinez said, startled, you can't. I can, Jade interrupted, and I will. She moved to the wall terminal and keyed in a code so fast Martinez barely registered the sequence. The system beeped, denied access. She tried another, denied again. The third time the terminal went green. The young Marine's mouth fell open. That's restricted clearance, even the commander. Doesn't have mine, she finished. Elena stepped forward, disbelief mixing with awe. Who are you? Before Jade could reply, the door controls flashed red again, external override. Someone was forcing their way in. Jade positioned herself beside the entry, pistol ready, calm as a surgeon preparing for an incision. Martinez, she said quietly, when that door opens, aim center mass and don't hesitate. But ma'am. Don't call me ma'am, she cut him off. Just shoot. The explosion that followed wasn't deafening, it was focused, tactical, a shaped charge. The blast door flew inward, smoke curling like claws into the hallway. Through the haze, figures emerged, black gear, suppressed rifles, foreign insignia scraped off. Professionals. Martinez fired first, 2 quick bursts, one target down. Jade moved like muscle memory, like instinct. Controlled, efficient, terrifying. She dropped another with a shot that snapped clean through his optic mount. Elena pressed against the wall, covering her head as bullets sparked off concrete. Jade moved between cover like she'd done it 1,000 times because she had. When the last intruder fell, the silence returned, heavy, unnatural. Martinez lowered his weapon, chest heaving. They knew exactly where to breach, he said. They were coming straight for us. No, Jade corrected, sliding a fresh magazine into her pistol. They were coming for me. Elena stared at her. So it's true, you're Angel 7. Jade didn't confirm it, but the look in her eyes was enough. Before they could process it, Thompson's voice broke through again, ragged and breathless. They're demanding Angel 7 surrender. They've taken 10 hostages. They'll start executing if we don't comply. Elena looked at Jade, horrified. You're not thinking of. I'm thinking of stopping them, Jade said. You'll be walking straight into a trap. Jade holstered her pistol and retrieved her medical kit, securing it across her chest. That's where people usually need saving. Martinez stepped in front of her. With respect, ma'am, if you go out there, they'll kill you. Her expression didn't change. They've been trying for years. Elena grabbed her arm. You can't face them alone. Jade's voice softened, not cold, not detached, just tired. I'm not facing them. I'm facing what's left of them. She paused at the door, eyes flicking to the bodies on the floor, their weapons, their insignia, the faint tattoos visible through torn sleeves. Al-Rashid's men, she murmured. Elena frowned. Who's that? The man whose brother I stopped in Aleppo. The radio crackled again, Rodriguez this time. They're demanding Angel 7 present herself in Sector 12. 25 minutes or they start executing hostages. Command wants all personnel on alert. Jade keyed the radio calmly. Tell them I'm on my way. There was silence on the line, then Rodriguez's shocked voice. Who the hell is this? Someone who's been running long enough. She handed her pistol to Martinez. If I don't come back, destroy that medical kit. Everything inside is classified. Understand? He swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am. Then she looked at Elena. If you want to help prep the infirmary, you're going to have incoming casualties, a lot of them. Elena's voice broke. What about you? Jade met her eyes. I've already had my turn. And then she walked, calm, steady, unarmed except for the med kit slung across her chest. The alarms blared, the corridor strobed red and white, but she moved through it all with the focus of someone who'd already made peace with her choices. As she turned the corner toward Sector 12, voices echoed faintly behind her, Martinez calling for backup, Elena trying to reach command, Rodriguez shouting into his mic for someone to stop her. But Jade didn't stop. The hallway stretched ahead, long and empty, like the space between what she'd been and what she was about to become again. Her reflection flashed in the metal of a sealed door, gray shirt, fatigues, eyes that had seen too much. A ghost walking through her own legend. She whispered, barely audible over the sirens, "You wanted Angel 7. You're about to get her." And for the first time in years, she didn't hide from the name. She walked toward it. Why did the world always slow down right before everything went wrong? The corridor leading to Sector 12 was lit by pulsing red alarms that painted every wall like an open wound. Somewhere ahead, gunfire rattled in bursts, 3 seconds of chaos, then silence. Jade moved through it like a shadow that refused to disappear, her boots landing softly against the trembling floor. Every step carried the weight of a name she'd buried years ago. Angel 7. She could hear them on the comms now, clipped military voices, shouting coordinates, calling for reinforcements. Rodriguez's voice cut through the static. Hostiles entrenched near server core, multiple hostages visible. Repeat, we've got 10 hostages. Then quieter, almost disbelieving, Hayes, she's coming this way, alone. Hayes's reply snapped like a whip. Stop her, she's not cleared for engagement. But Rodriguez didn't answer. Maybe because deep down, some part of him knew she was the only one who understood what kind of war was unfolding inside those concrete walls. Jade reached the final blast door separating her from Sector 12. It was half-blown, one hinge hanging like a broken bone. Smoke curled through the gap. She slipped inside. The server room looked like a cathedral built from metal and light, rows of blinking consoles, shattered monitors, the smell of ozone and blood. The hostages were kneeling near the far wall, wrists bound. Around them, 6 armed men in tactical gear kept silent watch. Their movements were disciplined. Their eyes were dead. The leader stood near the center, tall, calm, scar down one cheek. His accent when he spoke was unmistakably Middle Eastern, but his English was perfect. Angel 7, he said without looking up, you came. Jade stopped 10 paces away. You asked. He turned, you took your time. Had to make sure the right ghosts were listening, she said. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, then bitterness. You remember me. Hassan al-Rashid, she said. Your brother was in Aleppo. His eyes burned. My brother was at a refugee camp. You murdered him. Jade's voice didn't rise. Your brother drove a truck full of explosives into a crowd of families. I stopped him. He took a step forward, rifle steady. You killed my blood. You would have killed 300 others. His jaw tightened. Balance must be restored. Behind her, the door creaked open again. Rodriguez slipped in, weapon raised, his team fanning out along the walls. Hayes followed, her face pale but set. Thompson crouched near a terminal, already scanning network feeds. Rodriguez's voice was low, controlled. "You have 30 seconds to stand down." Hassan smiled without warmth. "You think you control the clock, but I started it hours ago." He tapped his comm. "Angel 7 stands in front of me. Begin countdown." On one of the screens behind him, a digital timer appeared, 24 minutes. Hayes muttered, "He's wired the facility." Thompson's fingers flew across his tablet. C12 plastic in the ventilation shafts, multiple triggers, remote and manual. Rodriguez hissed through his teeth, "You trying to turn this place into a graveyard?" Hassan ignored him. "Angel 7 understands. She knows how it feels to watch the people you love die." Jade's eyes didn't waver. "You think pain gives you purpose. It doesn't, it just repeats itself." He laughed softly. "You speak of purpose like you know mine. You don't. You were the blade that cut us apart, and now you stand here with empty hands thinking mercy is a shield." Jade's reply came like a whisper through the smoke. "Mercy isn't a shield. It's what keeps you human." For a heartbeat, something flickered in his expression, regret maybe. Then it hardened again. "You sound like my mother before the bombings began." From the side, Rodriguez called out, "Ma'am, step back. Let us handle this." She didn't move. "No, he's not here for you." Rodriguez frowned. "Then who?" "For me," she said. That stopped everything. The soldiers, the hostages, even the air seemed to freeze. Rodriguez stared at her, realization dawning slow and painful. "You're saying—" Jade took a breath. "Angel 7 isn't missing. Angel 7 didn't die." She reached up and pulled the gray shirt over her head, revealing the lattice of scars carved into her back, pale lines that told stories no report ever recorded. Between her shoulder blades, a black tattoo, a medical cross intertwined with a sniper scope. Beneath it, in crisp military lettering, 127. Hayes whispered, "Oh my God." Hassan smiled faintly. "So the ghost still bleeds." Rodriguez's weapon lowered an inch. His mind reeled. "The medic who pulled me from the wreck in Kandahar, the one who died covering our evacuation." He dropped to his knees like the weight of 4 years finally found him. "Angel 7, you saved my life." Jade's voice was quiet. "And you've spent every day since protecting others. That's what matters." Hayes's radio buzzed. "Command to all units, detonation countdown confirmed. 23 minutes. Evacuation protocol engaged." Thompson shouted over the noise. "I can jam part of the signal, but not all of it. We need the detonator code." Hassan cocked his head. "There is no code, only me." He raised a small transmitter. "And I am very steady." Rodriguez tensed. "Don't." Jade stepped forward. "You kill everyone here, you prove nothing. You think revenge will quiet the ghosts, but it won't. It'll just give them more names to whisper." He hesitated, thumb resting on the trigger. "You sound like a medic, not a killer." "Maybe that's what I am now." Rodriguez whispered, "Ma'am, what's the play?" Her eyes never left Hassan's. "He's not here to detonate, not yet. He wants me to surrender, wants to make me pay where everyone can see it." Hayes's voice was brittle. "Then give him what he wants, time. I can get a sniper line from the west window." Jade shook her head. "You take the shot, his men open fire on the hostages. No clean win." The timer clicked down, 1943. She took another step forward. "Hassan, you've spent years chasing a ghost, but what happens if the ghost forgives you?" His brow furrowed. "Forgive." "I forgive you," she said simply, "for surviving, for making me remember." He blinked, confusion flickered. The transmitter lowered half an inch, enough. Rodriguez saw it. "Now." Hayes fired. The bullet shattered the transmitter, sparks spraying like fireworks. Hassan staggered back, shouting orders. Chaos erupted. Gunfire ripped through the room. Rodriguez dove, dragging a hostage behind cover. Thompson ducked beneath a console, fingers flying as he rerouted power. Haze covered their flank, every shot precise, mechanical. And Jade moved through it all like she was born inside the noise. She reached Hassan before he recovered, slammed his wrist against the floor, twisted until bone cracked. The detonator fragments scattered. They struggled, breath ragged, blades flashing. Hassan's knife sliced across her arm. She countered with a strike that sent the weapon spinning away. In the reflection of shattered glass, for a split second, she saw both of them, killer and healer, predator and protector. Two sides of the same war. Then she disarmed him, pinned him to the floor, knee pressed against his chest. "It's over," she said. He laughed through blood. "You think killing me ends this? I'm not going to kill you." That surprised him. "Then you've already lost." "No," she whispered, "I'm just done losing." Behind her, Rodriguez's team secured the remaining hostiles. Hayes called in medevac for the wounded. Thompson confirmed the explosives were disabled. The clock froze at 00:07. Hassan stared up at her. "You should have let me finish it. You'll never stop them all." "Maybe not," she said, rising, "but today I stopped you." She turned away, pressing her bleeding arm against her chest. The pain grounded her, reminded her she was still alive. Rodriguez approached slowly, eyes full of something between guilt and awe. "Ma'am, Angel 7, I owe you." She shook her head. "You don't owe me anything, just learn from it." Hayes stepped closer, her usual confidence gone. "All that time I thought you were lying, pretending. You were the most qualified person in the room." "Experience isn't always visible," Jade said. Still, Hayes murmured, "We misjudged you." Jade looked around at the hostages being freed, the soldiers patching wounds, the smoke clearing to reveal the living and the dead. "Maybe that was the lesson," she said quietly. Thompson looked up from his tablet. "Ma'am, there's something else. We intercepted enemy communications during the fight. The data trail doesn't end here. Someone inside our own network fed them intel." Rodriguez frowned. "You're saying there's a mole?" "Maybe more than one," Thompson said. Hayes cursed under her breath. So this was never just a revenge hit. It was bait. Jade's eyes darkened. "To draw me out." Rodriguez turned toward her. "They knew you'd come back." "I never really left," she said. Outside, sirens wailed as reinforcements flooded the facility. Medics rushed in. Elena was among them, her eyes wide as she took in the aftermath. When she saw Jade's arm bleeding freely, she hurried over with gauze. "You need stitches," she said. "Later." Elena didn't take no for an answer. "You're still human, right? Let me treat you." Jade managed the faintest smile, working on it. As Elena patched her wound, Rodriguez approached again. "Ma'am, the medic who pulled me out of Kandahar, that was you, wasn't it?" She nodded. "You were unconscious for most of it. They said you died saving us." "I did," she said simply, "on paper." He swallowed hard. "Then why stay dead?" "Because some wars don't end when the shooting stops. Sometimes you have to disappear to finish them." Hayes stepped closer, softer now. "And now that they've found you again." Jade looked at the captured terrorists being led away. "Then I finish what they started." Elena finished bandaging her arm. "You mean go after whoever's behind this?" Jade's voice lowered to a near whisper, the kind that carried more weight than any shout. "If someone inside our own command is feeding information to the enemy, then none of us are safe. Not the soldiers, not the medics, not the people we swore to protect." Rodriguez looked at her, remembering how he'd mocked her only hours earlier. "Ma'am, what do we do now?" Jade met his gaze. "We start over with truth, with people who have seen what judgment costs." Outside, dawn began to break over Coronado, washing the sky in pale gold. For the first time in years, light touched Jade's face without the filter of secrecy. She looked down at her bandaged arm, at the scar beneath it, and said quietly, almost to herself, but loud enough for the others to hear. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. How quiet it gets after the shooting stops. The kind of quiet that isn't peace, it's the echo of what's been lost. The server room still smelled of cordite and ozone, burned metal and blood. The hostages were gone now, medevaced out by Navy personnel. The lights flickered back to sterile white, but the air still vibrated with adrenaline. Jade sat alone on the edge of a work table, her arm freshly bandaged, her gray shirt replaced by a borrowed tactical jacket. Around her, the remnants of chaos remained: shell casings, shattered glass, a bullet hole through a monitor that still blinked with data. Rodriguez stood near the doorway, helmet under one arm, eyes fixed on her. He'd faced death in more ways than he could count, but he still wasn't sure what to say to the woman who had once saved his life, and then let him believe she was gone. Finally he managed, "You could have told me." She didn't look up, and said what? "Hi, remember me, the dead medic who held your artery shut with one hand and fired your rifle with the other. I didn't think it'd go over well." He smiled faintly despite himself. "You've got a dark sense of humor." Occupational hazard. Hayes entered next, looking like someone who'd just seen her career flash before her eyes. She walked with the careful posture of an officer trying to reassert control after losing it. But when she spoke, the edge was gone. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "For what?" Jade asked. "For judging you before I knew you." Jade finally looked at her, eyes tired but kind. "We all judge. The trick is learning from it." Hayes nodded, shame flickering behind her professionalism. "I didn't see you for who you were." "You weren't supposed to," Jade said. From the far corner, Thompson looked up from his tablet. He'd been scanning through network logs for nearly an hour, eyes bloodshot from the screen's glow. "Ma'am," he said, his tone careful, "I think I found something." Rodriguez moved closer. "What kind of something?" Thompson turned the screen toward them. During the breach, the terrorists accessed files labeled under Operation Ghostlight. That's not part of any open network. It's buried under multiple layers of clearance. But here's the strange part: they didn't need to hack it. Someone unlocked it for them. Hayes frowned. "From inside the base." Thompson nodded. "The signal came from within our own system, from an administrative node linked to command access." Rodriguez exhaled slowly. "So someone fed them intel." Jade's gaze hardened. "And used this attack to draw me out." Thompson hesitated. "You mean they knew Angel 7 was alive?" "They knew," Jade said quietly, "and they wanted proof." The silence that followed was heavy, the kind of silence that sinks into your bones. Rodriguez broke it first. "You think it's someone in Special Operations Command?" "It has to be," Jade said. "Only a handful of people knew about Ghostlight. Fewer knew Angel 7 survived." Hayes crossed her arms, anger replacing guilt. "Then we find them." "Not yet," Jade said. "We don't chase shadows until we understand their shape." Thompson looked up again. "Ma'am, if they've been tracking you, they'll try again. This wasn't a one-off." "I know," she said. Elena entered then, still in her scrubs, hair pulled back in a loose bun. She carried a tray of medical instruments, but her expression was softer now, not fear, not disbelief, just empathy. "You need rest," she said. "I need clarity." "Clarity can wait until your body catches up." Jade gave a small smile. "You sound like me 4 years ago." Elena sat beside her, studying the lines on her face, the quiet exhaustion that didn't come from one battle, but from too many. "You've been running a long time, haven't you?" Jade nodded. "Since the day they declared me dead." "Why stay gone?" Elena asked. "Because it kept people alive." Rodriguez spoke up. "Ma'am, if you've been in hiding this whole time, what brought you back today?" Jade's eyes drifted toward the broken doorway. "They made me choose. Either stay hidden and watch people die in my name, or come back and finish what I started. Thompson's tablet pinged again. Ma'am, I've got confirmation encrypted traffic bouncing off multiple satellites. Someone been monitoring this facility since before the attack. They knew you were coming. Hayes frowned. How could they know that? You didn't even tell us who you were until half an hour ago. Because they're not just watching me, Jade said. They're watching the people I've trained. Elena looked confused. Trained? I thought you were out of the service. I was, Jade said, but you can't unlearn what you know. The last 4 years I've worked under civilian programs, trauma response, emergency medicine. Every course I taught was quietly funded by military research grants. Dozens of doctors, medics, nurses, all trained under modified field protocols. Rodriguez's brow furrowed. You're saying they're targeting them? Yes, Jade replied. Everyone who carries pieces of my knowledge, because if they can't kill Angel 7, they'll kill her legacy. That hit the room like another explosion. Thompson swallowed hard. Ma'am, we can trace the network, find where the data's coming from. No, Jade said sharply. They'll expect that. We move, we tip our hand. Hayes frowned. So what do? Jade stood slowly, tightening the strap of her medical bag. We prepare. Rodriguez stepped forward. For what? For when they try again. Before anyone could answer, the room door burst open. Commander Reynolds strode in tall, composed, his presence commanding immediate attention. His uniform bore the insignia of Naval Special Warfare Command. The entire room straightened on instinct. Reynolds' eyes swept the scene, the broken equipment, the captured hostiles, the standing figure of Jade Morgan. Recognition flickered there. Shock, and then something else, respect. He removed his cap and saluted sharply. Master Chief Angel 7, he said, his voice low but reverent. Ma'am, welcome home. No one moved. Rodriguez blinked. Hayes froze mid-step. Elena's eyes widened, realizing she was standing in front of a legend, one she'd unknowingly tended to hours earlier. Jade didn't return the salute immediately. Her eyes stayed on him, measuring. You shouldn't say that name out loud, Commander. After what I've seen on this feed, Reynolds said, glancing at Thompson's screen, it deserves to be said. He turned to the others. You all understand that what you've witnessed today is classified beyond comprehension. The existence of Angel 7, this operation, everything, none of it leaves this room. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Understood, sir. Hayes swallowed hard. Sir, permission to speak freely. Granted. Sir, with respect, we owe her an apology, all of us. Reynolds' gaze softened. Ma'am, you don't owe Angel 7 an apology. You owe her trust. Jade finally met his eyes. Trust is earned, Commander. Then earn it again, he said. We need you. Jade's jaw tightened. You have an entire command of operators. Operators, he said quietly, who learned half their emergency field medicine from your protocols. She looked down, the words landing deeper than he probably realized. You've been using them. They've saved lives, Reynolds said simply. Your legacy didn't die with your cover, it multiplied. For a moment Jade said nothing, then she gave a faint nod. Then it wasn't for nothing. Reynolds continued, but we've got a bigger problem now. Our intel division intercepted chatter suggesting today's assault was a diversion. While we were defending this facility, another team hit a civilian hospital in San Diego. Elena's head jerked up. A hospital. Reynolds nodded grimly. They took staff, trauma specialists, medics, anyone connected to military-funded medical programs. Sound familiar? Jade's expression darkened. They're targeting my people. Rodriguez's voice dropped. Then we move now. Reynolds shook his head. We can't deploy SEALs into a civilian zone without coordination. Then don't, Jade said. Let me. Ma'am, you're not officially active. I'm not officially anything, she said. which makes me perfect for this. Reynolds studied her for a long moment. You'll need a team. I already have one, she said, glancing at Rodriguez, Hayes, Thompson, Elena, the same people who had doubted her hours ago and now stood waiting for her signal. Rodriguez straightened. Ma'am, we're ready. Hayes nodded. After today, I follow your command. Thompson added, you'll need real-time data. I can handle comms and intercepts. Elena looked up from her tray, and you'll need someone to keep everyone breathing. For the first time, Jade's composure cracked just slightly, a flicker of emotion, pride mixed with something gentler. You realize this isn't just a rescue mission. It's bait. Whoever's running this will expect me. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Then they'll get you, just not the way they expect. Reynolds gave a short nod. 20 minutes, medical and tactical prep. Helicopter pad Alpha, you move with my authorization off the record. Jade turned toward him, and when this is done. Then, Reynolds said, we talk about bringing Angel 7 back into the light. As the team filed out, the corridor outside filled again with motion. Medics, soldiers, the hum of renewed purpose. Jade lingered for one last moment in the server room. The monitors still flickered faintly, one of them reflecting her face, tired, scarred, but steady. She touched the glass gently, almost reverently. A ghost meeting her reflection. Under her breath, she whispered, you died for a reason. Don't make it meaningless now. Then she turned and walked into the light of the corridor, toward the next fight, the next redemption, the next truth waiting to break her heart again. And somewhere far away, in a city full of sirens and hospital corridors, the next battle was already beginning. When the rotor blades began to turn, the night seemed to hold its breath. Wind whipped across the helipad, scattering dust and papers into the air. The base lights below flickered like fading memories, small, distant, and safe. Ahead, the dark stretch of ocean gleamed beneath the moon, an unbroken mirror of uncertainty. Jade stood at the edge of the pad, headset in hand, her gaze fixed on the horizon. She wasn't thinking about the mission. Not yet. She was thinking about how silence always came before violence, that brief, deceptive calm that made your heartbeat sound louder than the blades above you. Rodriguez approached, his rifle slung low, vest buckled, expression set. Birds ready. ETA 30 minutes to San Diego General. She nodded, voice low. Any updates? Command says local police cordoned off the hospital perimeter. Civilians evacuated. But they've got hostages, still holding staff inside. Any demands? None, just radio silence. Jade's jaw tightened. Then it's not ransom, it's recruitment or elimination. Hayes climbed aboard next, adjusting her comm unit. This whole setup feels off. Why hit a hospital? They gain nothing except exposure. They gain fear, Jade said, and fear moves faster than truth. Thompson followed, securing his gear near the radio console. Comms linked. I've got live feeds from city surveillance, tactical satellites, even hospital blueprints. But encryption traffic around the target zone's unusual, like someone's jamming selectively, not globally. Elena arrived last, hair tied back, medical pack strapped across her shoulder. She looked out of place among armored operators, yet somehow more vital than any of them. Everyone's talking about how we'll get in, she said quietly. No one's asking how we'll get out. Jade gave a faint, tired smile. We'll worry about that after we save them. The team boarded the helicopter, the metallic thud of boots against steel merging with the rising roar of the engines. As the aircraft lifted off, the base shrank beneath them, a cluster of lights swallowed by darkness. Inside, the cabin lights were dim, faces half-lit by flickering instrument panels. No one spoke for the first few minutes. It wasn't fear that kept them quiet. It was focus. Rodriguez broke the silence first. Ma'am, what really happened in Aleppo? Jade looked out the window, eyes reflecting the passing lights below. It wasn't a clean mission, Nothing ever is. He waited, she didn't continue. Then softly, almost against her own restraint, she said, "We were supposed to intercept a convoy carrying medical supplies. Intel said it was a front for explosives. We stopped it, but the cargo wasn't explosives." Hayes frowned. What was it? Jade hesitated. Children. The word hit like a round in the chest. Rodriguez's voice dropped. "You're saying—" "They used them," she whispered, "to get us to fire first." The cabin went still again. The rhythmic chop of blades filled the silence like a metronome of guilt. Elena finally said, "That wasn't your fault." "I was overwatch," Jade said. "My call sign was Angel 7. They trusted my judgment, and I made the call to engage." She closed her eyes. "When the dust settled, we realized what they'd done. They'd turned rescue trucks into coffins. I lost 5 good soldiers that day and part of myself with them." No one replied. There was nothing to say. Thompson finally looked up from his screen. "We're 5 minutes out. Perimeter's still dark. Police units pulled back a mile. Too dangerous." Hayes checked her rifle. "Insertion point." "Roof access," Thompson said. "Emergency elevator shaft. Security grid offline since the breach." Rodriguez grinned grimly. "Classic entrance, straight through the top." Elena tightened her medical straps. "You all sound way too calm about this." Rodriguez smirked. "That's because we don't know what we're walking into." Jade's tone cut through their unease like a quiet knife. "Stay sharp. They're expecting military, not ghosts." The helicopter banked low over the city, skimming rooftops. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but constant, the heartbeat of panic. As they neared the hospital, they saw it. A 12-story structure surrounded by flashing lights and empty streets. Windows dark. One flickering emergency beacon pulsing on the roof like a dying heartbeat. "Visual confirmed," Thompson said. "No movement on upper floors. Infrared shows clusters on levels 6 and 7. "Hostages?" Jade asked. "Most likely, armed presence surrounding them." She looked at Rodriguez. "We go in quiet. Subsonics only. We're not here to win a war, we're here to end one." They landed without incident, the helicopter's downdraft scattering debris across the rooftop. Jade was first out, crouched low, scanning corners. Hayes followed, sweeping the perimeter. Rodriguez secured the access door with a silent pry tool. Inside the rooftop stairwell, the air smelled of dust and old medicine. The lights flickered, power rerouted to emergency circuits. Thompson whispered over comms, "Thermals show movement 2 floors down. 4 armed stationary, probably guarding elevator access." Jade motioned forward, leading the descent. Every step creaked softly beneath their boots. The tension was a living thing, breathing with them, moving with them. When they reached level 10, Rodriguez paused. "I've got eyes." Through a broken window panel, they saw 2 hostiles in black tactical gear standing near the elevator shaft. Their postures were relaxed, too relaxed. "They're bait," Jade murmured, "watching for us to take the obvious path." Hayes tilted her head. "Then what's the non-obvious one?" Jade pointed toward the maintenance crawlspace behind a wall of ductwork. "That." They squeezed through, one by one, moving in near silence. Elena's heart pounded so loud she swore it would give them away. But Jade's hand occasionally reached back, steadying her, a silent reminder, breathe. They emerged behind the 2 guards, 2 muffled shots silenced clean. The men dropped without a sound. "Elevator's clear," Rodriguez whispered. Thompson moved to the console, typing rapidly. "Power rerouted manually. Whoever did this knew the building's design." Hayes frowned. "Inside help again." "Looks that way." Jade leaned against the elevator frame, scanning the darkness below. "We go to level 7. That's where the hostages are. After that, we split." Rodriguez's brow furrowed. "Split? Ma'am, that's suicide." "Not if they're using dual triggers," Jade said. Someone has to find the second detonator while we secure the civilians. I'll go with you, Rodriguez said. She shook her head. You stay with Hayes and the doctor. I move faster alone. The elevator whirred reluctantly to life, descending through dim blue light. Each floor passed like a memory sinking deeper into her mind. Level 9, Level 8, Level 7. The doors opened to a nightmare. Hospital beds overturned, IV lines dangling like vines, medical charts scattered across the floor, stained and torn, and in the center of the ward, 10 hostages bound together, guarded by men in identical black gear. But this time, they weren't alone. A man stood near the window, back turned, suit immaculate. No mask, no weapon visible. Jade's stomach tight. She knew that posture, that calm. When he spoke, his voice was smooth, detached, like a surgeon describing a failed operation. It took longer than expected, but I knew you'd come. Turn around, she said. He did. It was Hassan, not even close. It was Colonel Anders, U.S. Intelligence Division, the very man who'd signed the death certificate for Angel 7. Hayes inhaled sharply. Sir. Stand down, Lieutenant, Anders said softly. You're out of your depth. Jade raised her weapon. You're behind this. He smiled faintly. Behind? No, I'm ahead, always have been. Rodriguez growled. You killed our people for what leverage? Leverage? Anders said, as if amused. No, Sergeant, evolution. The war's changing. The only way to protect what's ours is to control who carries knowledge like hers. He gestured toward Jade. Angel 7 isn't a soldier, she's a liability, a myth that refuses to die, and myths inspire rebellion. Jade's voice was low, dangerous. So you turned me into a ghost, then sent killers to erase what was left. Correction, Anders said. I gave you freedom, you chose to waste it. Rodriguez's grip tightened. Give us the hostages now. Anders tilted his head, almost pitying. You think I need permission to end this? The detonators are biometric, triggered by my heartbeat. Hayes' eyes widened. If you die. Everything goes, he said. Elena whispered. There are children in this hospital, staff who never left. Anders looked at her gently. Collateral, doctor, necessary weight for progress. Jade stepped closer. You always talked about progress, about sacrifice, but all you ever wanted was control. Someone has to hold the scalpel, he said. Better it be a surgeon than a butcher. Jade's finger hovered near the trigger. She could end it. One clean shot. But the biometric failsafe, if he was telling the truth, one heartbeat stopped meant hundreds more. Rodriguez whispered, Ma'am, orders. She didn't answer. Her mind raced, angles, probabilities, risks. Then Anders spoke again softly. You could have stayed buried. You could have been a ghost forever, but you had to come back. Jade's eyes glistened. Maybe ghosts aren't meant to haunt. Maybe they're meant to finish what the living are too afraid to start. Anders smiled sadly, then finish it. And in that instant, his hand twitched toward his jacket, not for a gun, but for a small pulse monitor taped to his wrist. Jade fired. One shot not at his heart but at his wrist. The monitor shattered, sparks flew. Anders stumbled, shock overtaking arrogance. Rodriguez lunged forward, tackling him to the ground before he could recover. Thompson rushed in, scanning the monitor fragments. Signal severed, biometric link neutralized. Hayes exhaled shakily. That's impossible, how did you? Training, Jade said softly. Always aim for the artery, not the armor. Elena hurried to the hostages, cutting restraints. Tears filled her eyes as she saw the faces, nurses, interns, people she'd trained beside in civilian hospitals. Jade knelt beside Anders, now bleeding from his wrist, eyes full of rage and disbelief. You think you've won, he hissed. You think this ends with me. Jade stood, looking down at him with something that wasn't hate, it was pity. No, she said. It ends when people like you stop believing they're the only ones who can save the world. Outside, sirens swelled again, police, ambulances, the world waking up. As the team led the hostages toward the stairwell, Jade paused at the doorway, glancing back one last time at the fallen man who had tried to rewrite her story. Her voice was barely audible, but every word carried through the smoke and silence. Sometimes, salvation doesn't arrive in uniform. Sometimes it walks back into the fire it tried to leave behind. And with that, she followed her team into the light, into the sirens, into the dawn that promised no peace, only the next truth waiting to be earned. Why did victory always feel like loss? The hospital lights flickered overhead, sterile white spilling across blood-slicked floors. The smell of antiseptic mixed with gunpowder, that strange perfume of survival and regret. Paramedics rushed the wounded past the shattered front doors. Sirens wailed outside, echoing through the dawn like grief given a voice. Jade sat on a stretcher near the entrance, silent. Her hands shook slightly, but she hid it by clasping them together. A medic approached with gauze, but she waved him off. "Save it for someone who still bleeds for the right reasons," she murmured. Across the lobby, Rodriguez was talking with local police. Hayes paced near the reception desk, phone to her ear, arguing with command. Thompson hunched over a portable console, eyes locked on data feeds. Elena, sleeves rolled up, was tending to an injured nurse. She moved with quiet grace, the kind of steadiness Jade once had. Commander Reynolds arrived minutes later, stepping through the chaos with the calm of a man who'd seen worse. He stopped in front of Jade. "You neutralized the detonator." She didn't answer. He glanced toward where Anders sat handcuffed to a gurney, guarded by two SEALs. His wrist was bandaged, face pale, eyes distant. "And you caught him alive." "That wasn't my choice," Jade said softly. Reynolds folded his arms. "It never is." They stared at each other for a long moment. Between them, no words, just the hum of machines and the faint sobs of those who'd been rescued. Finally, Reynolds said, "You know what comes next." "Interrogation," she said flatly. He nodded. "Command's sending a transport. They want him at Pendleton by noon." "And me?" His gaze held hers. "They want you off the grid again." She laughed, short and bitter. "So I save their hospital, stop a bomb, and they bury me again." "Jade, I'm not disappearing this time, Commander. Not until I know why a decorated officer turned a humanitarian program into a kill list." Reynolds sighed. "You won't like the answer." "Then it's probably true." He studied her for a long moment, then handed her a small flash drive. "Recovered from Anders' tablet. Classified ghostlight data. I shouldn't even be giving this to you." She looked at it, then up at him. "Why are you?" "Because somewhere along the way, we forgot who we were fighting for. Maybe you can remind us." He turned and walked off, barking orders, leaving her with the weight of something far heavier than a weapon, truth. Jade slipped the drive into her pocket and watched as Anders was loaded onto a transport. He didn't resist, didn't even look back, just sat there, head bowed, like a man who had finally realized that control was a myth. Elena approached quietly. "You okay?" Jade gave a faint smile. "Define okay." "You're alive." "Temporarily." Elena crossed her arms. "You saved 32 people tonight. That counts for something." Jade looked away. "So did Aleppo, didn't change what it cost." Elena hesitated, then said softly, "Whatever you did, whoever you were, you're not her anymore." Jade met her eyes. "Aren't I?" Before Elena could reply, Thompson called out from across the room. "Ma'am, I've decrypted part of the Ghostlight files. You'll want to see this." They gathered around his console, Hayes, Rodriguez, Elena. Thompson's fingers danced over the keyboard, opening a series of folders. Images appeared. Classified mission logs, redacted names, medical files. Ghostlight wasn't just a recovery program, Thompson said. It was a replication project. Hayes frowned. Replication. Jade's stomach tightened. Of what? He opened another file. Of you. They stared at the screen, field schematics, training models, psychological profiles labeled Angel 7 Protocol. Adaptive Response Unit. Rodriguez muttered, Jesus, they were trying to make more of you. Hayes scrolled through data. Medical augmentation trials, field conditioning, sniper medic hybrid training modules. This is insane. Jade's voice was barely audible. They turned my failures into blueprints. Thompson nodded grimly. And they succeeded, at least partially. There are records of 3 surviving operatives classified under Shadow Angels. No names, just call signs. Rodriguez looked at Jade. You think they're active? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Outside, thunder rolled over the coastline. The first drops of rain hit the hospital roof, tapping like fingertips against glass. Hayes whispered, if Anders wasn't the architect, who was? Jade's eyes remained on the screen. Someone who believed in him enough to keep funding this long after he fell off the grid. Thompson hesitated. There's one unredacted note in the file, a code name Vigil. No rank, no name, just that. Rodriguez frowned. You ever heard it before? Jade nodded slowly. Once, in Aleppo, right before the convoy explosion. Hayes' voice sharpened. He was there. Not physically, Jade said, but over comms, the one giving orders. We never traced the voice. Elena stepped forward. Then that's who's really behind this. Jade exhaled slowly, and he's still out there. Rodriguez clenched his fists. Then we go after him. Jade shook her head. No, we don't even know what he looks like. He's smoke and wires. Hayes crossed her arms. You're saying we wait. I'm saying we rebuild, Jade replied. We prepare for when he finds us again, because he will. Thompson looked uneasy. Ma'am, there's one more thing. He turned the laptop toward her. The final file wasn't data, it was a video feed. Fuzzy, time-stamped 2 hours before the hospital assault. On-screen, a dark room. A man standing in front of a wall of monitors. His face hidden in shadow, voice distorted. The angel is restless, he said. Bring her into the light, then watch how quickly she burns. The footage ended. Elena whispered, he knew you'd come. Jade stared at the blank screen, her reflection faint in the glass, eyes hollow but burning. He's been watching me longer than I thought. Rodriguez muttered, so what now, ma'am? She looked at each of them in turn, the soldier, the officer, the hacker, the doctor. For lives she never meant to pull into her ghosts. Now, she said, we find out how deep this goes. Later that night, the rain turned into a downpour. The city outside blurred into streaks of silver under streetlights. Inside a small operations tent beside the hospital, the team huddled around maps and data streams. Hayes briefed logistics. Command wants us on standby until they decide jurisdiction, but I don't like waiting blind. Thompson nodded. I've got traces of encrypted packets leaving Anders' device before we captured him, routed through a relay in Nevada. Military-grade signals. Rodriguez leaned over the table. You're saying they knew we'd intercept him? Or wanted us to, Thompson said. Jade stared at the map silently. Nevada, the desert, the one place she'd sworn never to return to. Hayes noticed her silence. What is it? Jade's tone dropped. That's where Ghostlight was born. The others exchanged uneasy looks. Rodriguez broke the silence. Then that's where we go next. No, Jade said. If we move without clearance, we'll be labeled rogue. They'll bury us. Hayes met her gaze. They already buried you once. The words lingered. Elena spoke softly. If you don't stop this, who will? Jade's hand tightened around the flash drive in her pocket. You all understand what this means. No backup, no extraction, no one coming if it goes wrong. Rodriguez smirked. Story of my career. Thompson shrugged. I've always wanted to see the desert. Elena smiled faintly. I've always wanted to save the one who keeps saving everyone else. Jade looked at them, really looked. Exhausted faces lit by laptop glow, uniforms still stained, eyes too old for their age. For the first time, she didn't see subordinates. She saw believers. You realize this could end badly, she said. Rodriguez grinned. Ma'am, everything worth doing usually does. For a moment, something inside her softened, not enough to erase the weight, but enough to remind her why she still fought. Outside, thunder cracked again. The rain came harder. Jade turned toward the open tent flap, staring into the storm. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the puddles forming on the concrete, fractured, blurred. Voice low almost to herself, she said, "Every storm looks like chaos from the ground, but from above it's just movement, purpose, direction." Elena stepped beside her. "You think this one has a purpose?" Jade nodded slowly. "It has to." Behind them, Thompson's screen pinged. Incoming transmission encrypted. No origin signature. Everyone froze. He opened it. The message contained only a single line of text. "You can't save what's already become the shadow. Vigil." Then the feed went dark. The rain stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jade stared at the message for a long time. Her voice, when it came, was calm, too calm. "He's taunting us." Rodriguez holstered his weapon. "Then let's give him what he's asking for." She turned toward the team, eyes steady. "Pack light, we move before dawn." Hayes raised a brow. "To Nevada." "To the beginning," Jade said. Elena touched her arm gently, "and after that." Jade looked out toward the horizon, where the rain was already fatting into mist. "After that," she said, "we find out whether ghosts can still cast shadows." The desert never forgets. It buries, it hides, it erases, but it never forgets. By the time the team reached the outskirts of Nevada, dawn had already bled into the horizon like a wound that refused to close. The convoy was small, one unmarked SUV, dust-caked and silent as it rolled across miles of forgotten road. The world around them was endless emptiness, jagged rock, pale sand, the distant hum of wind through dry bones of earth. Jade sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the nothingness, fingers drumming absently against her thigh. She hadn't been here since before the world decided she was dead. Back then, this land had been alive with motion, convoys, drills, aircraft. Now it was a graveyard for secrets too heavy to bury anywhere else. Rodriguez drove, focused, steady, but glancing at her every now and then. "You know, this place doesn't even show up on GPS anymore. It's like the government deleted a piece of the map." Jade's eyes didn't leave the horizon. They didn't delete it. They fenced it with silence. In the backseat, Hayes adjusted her comm rig. "We're approaching restricted airspace. No satellite feed, no signal. After this point, we're ghosts." Thompson typed quickly on his portable console. "Confirmed. The network drops off completely once we hit Sector 9, but I'm picking up faint RF noise consistent with buried infrastructure. Something still running out there." Elena, sitting beside him, looked out the window. Running or waiting? No one answered. They drove another hour before the road ended abruptly at a stretch of cracked asphalt leading toward a rusted chain-link gate. The sign beside it was almost illegible. U.S. Research Division. Access restricted. Area BLACKLIGHT. Rodriguez killed the engine. Charming. The silence pressed in. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Jade stepped out first, boots crunching against gravel. The air was dry enough to taste. She scanned the horizon, dunes and broken terrain, the faint shimmer of heat already rising though the sun barely touched the earth. "This is it," she said quietly. Hayes frowned. "You've been here before." Jade nodded. Ghostlight wasn't born in a war zone. It was born here, in a lab disguised as a medical training site. Thompson stepped closer. Then whatever we're about to find, it's what started everything. Jade's tone darkened. No, it's what they used to finish it. They slipped through a tear in the fence, moving cautiously across open ground. The facility came into view, or what was left of it. Concrete structures half buried in sand, collapsed antenna towers, a row of derelict barracks eaten by time. Yet the closer they got, the clearer it became this wasn't abandoned. Faint generator hum, the metallic tang of ozone, and buried in the dust fresh tire tracks. Rodriguez crouched to inspect them, recent, maybe a day old. Then we're not alone, Jade said. Hayes gripped her rifle tighter. You think it's Vigil? Or one of his shadows? They entered the main hangar through a side breach. Inside, darkness swallowed everything except thin slivers of sunlight slicing through broken vents. Thompson flicked on his flashlight. The beam cut across dust particles hanging in the air like ghosts frozen mid-breath. Old medical tables, surgical lights, training dummies. But beneath the layer of decay, something newer, terminals still humming, a faint glow from a central screen. Power's live, Thompson whispered. Someone been maintaining this. Jade moved forward, her pulse slowing to that familiar rhythm, the one she'd learned in combat, when stillness was survival. She touched the terminal. The screen flickered, then stabilized. Lines of code scrolled across, encrypted but recognizable, ghostlight insignia in the corner. Access requires authorization, Thompson said. I can brute force it, but it'll take time. Jade stepped forward, typed a sequence from memory. The system beeped. Access granted. Hayes stared. You still remember the codes after all these years? Some ghosts leave marks you can't erase. Files loaded onto the screen, live feed channels, medical logs, experimental data. Elena leaned closer. What are we looking at? Jade scrolled through the logs. Human trials, cognitive reflex mapping, neural conditioning, all built from my mission data. My field biometrics, my kill ratios, my vitals under stress. Thompson's voice shook. They used you like an algorithm. Jade nodded. They wanted to automate instinct. Rodriguez frowned. That's impossible. She met his eyes. It's not. They used trauma as code, pain as pattern. Every decision I made in combat was recorded, analyzed, replicated. Hayes whispered, then these shadow angels, they're built from you. Before Jade could answer, a voice echoed from the far side of the hangar, calm, distorted by the space but unmistakably human. Not built from her, it said, built for her. Weapons came up instantly. From the shadows stepped three figures dressed in matte black gear, visors down, movements eerily synchronized. Each carried compact rifles, but they weren't aimed. Jade froze. She recognized the stance, the precision, the way they moved as one, efficient, silent, detached. Don't shoot, she whispered. Rodriguez's voice was low. They're not friendlies. No, she said softly, but they're not enemies either. The lead figure stepped closer, lowering the visor. The face beneath was female, young, maybe mid-20s, eyes sharp but familiar. Jade's breath caught. You're one of them. The woman tilted her head. Designation 7-1, codename Halo. Hayes muttered, Halo Angel's reflection. Jade took a step forward, lowering her weapon. Why are you here? Halo's voice was flat, almost rehearsed. Directive expired, awaiting command input. Thompson frowned. Directive. Jade's eyes narrowed. Who gave your last order? The woman blinked. Vigil. The name hung in the air like a toxin. Hayes whispered, he's controlling them remotely. Jade looked back at Halo. Where is he now? Unknown. Transmission cut post-deployment. Then why stay here? Awaiting Angel 7 confirmation. Jade froze. Rodriguez looked between them. Ma'am, she's talking about you. Jade hesitated, then asked, what confirmation? Halo's tone didn't change. To validate continuation protocol. Thompson glanced at his screen, lines of code flashing rapidly. Ma'am, she's not metaphorical. She means actual system validation. Your biometrics could unlock whatever Vigil left running. Hayes' voice was tight. And if she does? Halo raised her weapon slightly. Then this facility purges itself. The hum of machinery deepened. Somewhere beneath the floor, something heavy began to move. Rodriguez swore. That sound, that's a reactor waking up. Thompson's console flashed red. Confirmed. Countdown sequence initiated. 15 minutes until overload. Jade turned to Halo. Stop it. Cannot comply. Directive requires Angel 7 authorization. Then listen to me, Jade said, stepping closer. You were made from my data, my instincts. That means somewhere inside you, you know the difference between orders and purpose. For a flicker, something shifted in the woman's eyes. Doubt, humanity. Jade softened her tone. You don't have to end the world to prove you exist. Behind her, Hayes shouted over the rising hum. We're out of time, ma'am. Thompson's voice cracked. If we can't stop it, this entire sector's going to vaporize. Halo's grip tightened on her rifle. Her breathing faltered. Vigil said the Angel would betray the mission. And he was right, Jade said softly. Because the mission was never about saving people. It was about controlling them. You feel that, don't you? Silence. Then a single nod, barely perceptible. Jade extended her hand. Then help me fix it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Halo removed her glove and pressed her palm against Jade's. Thompson's console lit up. Biometric sync established. Override channel open. Shut it down, Jade ordered. Halo turned toward the nearest console, inputting a rapid sequence. The floor's vibration slowed, the lights flickered, then stabilized. Countdown halted. Rodriguez exhaled. That was way too close. Hayes lowered her weapon. Ma'am, what now? Jade looked at Halo. Now we find Vigil. Halo blinked. He will find you first. Let him, Jade said. This time I won't hide. Halo hesitated. Directive unclear. Then make a new one, Jade said quietly. Protect life, not command. For a long moment, Halo seemed to process that. Then she nodded once. Understood. Outside, the wind picked up, sweeping sand across the cracked earth. The facility lights dimmed one by one, leaving the hangar bathed in the soft glow of dawn. Elena whispered, What did you just do? Jade stared at her own hand, the faint trace of warmth where Halo's palm had touched. Maybe, she said softly. I reminded her that even ghosts deserve a choice. Rodriguez glanced toward the desert horizon. So what happens now? Jade's voice was quiet but certain. Now the shadow knows I'm coming. And far beyond the dunes, somewhere deep in the stillness of the desert, a single transmission flickered to life on an unseen terminal. A man's voice, calm, cold, certain. She's awake, said Vigil. Good, let's see if the Angel can still bleed. How quiet the desert became when the truth finally stepped into the light. The sun had climbed high over Nevada, spilling gold across miles of broken earth. From above, the Ghostlight facility looked dead, just another scar on a forgotten map. But beneath its surface, life pulsed again. Wires hummed, servers whispered, and somewhere deep underground, a voice waited to be heard. Jade stood at the edge of the main hangar, eyes tracing the horizon. She hadn't slept. She couldn't. Every gust of wind felt like a whisper from her past, every shadow like a hand reaching from a grave she'd already climbed out of. Rodriguez approached quietly, carrying 2 mugs of instant coffee. He handed one to her. You know, you could actually try resting once in a while. She gave a tired smile. You ever rest before a storm? He shook his head, didn't think so. They drank in silence. Around them, the team prepared for whatever came next, Hayes recalibrating drones, Thompson monitoring frequencies, Elena sorting through medical supplies. Even Halo, the silent soldier born from her code, stood near the hangar's exit, watching the sky as if waiting for orders that might never come. Thompson's voice broke the calm. "Ma'am, I've got a signal, faint but consistent, directional beacon about 30 clicks north of here." Hayes looked up, vigil. Thompson nodded. "Encrypted transmission, same architecture as Ghostlight but cleaner, newer. This is a command node, not a relay." Jade's jaw tightened. "Then that's where he's hiding." Rodriguez slung his rifle. "We move fast in and out." Elena stepped forward. "You realize we just shut down his entire project. He's not going to run." Jade nodded. "I'm counting on it." They set out within the hour, one armored vehicle, low profile, dust-colored to blend with the terrain. The drive was silent, the kind of silence that builds pressure in your chest. Even the radio static sounded like it was holding its breath. After an hour, the beacon came into view, a low complex built into the side of a canyon. From a distance, it looked abandoned. Up close, it was too clean. No rust, no decay, a ghost rebuilt. Thompson checked his readings. Surface scanners show a single life sign ground level, but I'm getting massive power signatures underground. Hayes frowned. "So he's waiting for us." "Like always," Jade said. They advanced carefully, weapons raised. The front doors slid open automatically as they approached, groaning like an invitation. Inside, cold light spilled across polished floors. The walls were lined with screens showing data streams, surveillance feeds, medical charts. At the center of the room stood a single figure, back turned, hands clasped behind him. "Vigil." His voice was calm when it came. "You made good time, Angel." Jade didn't lower her weapon. "Took me long enough." He turned slowly. He was older than she remembered from the surveillance feed, gray streaking his hair, eyes too sharp to belong to a man who'd spent years in the dark. His uniform bore no insignia, only a simple patch that read Vigil 01. "You've done well," he said, almost kindly, "and you've undone everything I built." "You built a lie," Jade said. "I built survival." Rodriguez stepped forward. "You built weapons out of people." Vigil ignored him. His gaze never left Jade. "You think the world still runs on principles. It runs on control, on precision. You were proof of that. You just didn't want to accept it." Hayes muttered. "I've heard this speech before, always from the ones who start wars to prevent them." Vigil smiled faintly. "Wars are just negotiations that stop pretending to be polite." Jade took a step closer. "You turned me into data. You stole everything I was." He shook his head. "I preserved you. When they declared you dead, I made sure Angel 7 lived. You are my greatest experiment, Jade, the perfect balance between instinct and intellect. But then you chose mercy, and mercy doesn't win wars." Her voice was steady. "Maybe it shouldn't." He studied her like a scientist studying a malfunctioning specimen. "You could have ruled entire divisions with your methods. Instead, you hide behind medics and broken soldiers." "I don't lead people to power," she said. "I lead them back from it." Something flickered behind his composure, frustration, maybe even grief. "You still don't understand. The program wasn't about creating killers. It was about creating constants, soldiers who wouldn't break under guilt or compassion." She tilted her head. "So you erased the parts that made us human." "The parts that made you hesitate," he corrected. Rodriguez raised his rifle. "You done talking?" Vigil smiled faintly, almost. He pressed a small switch on his wrist. The room's lights dimmed. A series of panels slid open along the far wall, revealing glass pods, 3 of them. Inside each stood a figure, suspended in fluid. Elena gasped. "They're alive." Thompson scanned the readouts. "Neural patterns active. These are clones, Ghostlight's final phase." Vigil's voice was calm. "You shut down my facility. You think that ended it. The world doesn't need an army. It only needs belief. These soldiers will carry it. They'll be everything you were without the burden of choice. Jade's heart pounded. You created replacements. I created perfection. She stepped closer, eyes burning. Perfection without conscience isn't strength, it's vacancy. He smiled thinly. And yet conscience is what kills men faster than bullets. Rodriguez whispered, "Ma'am, give the word." But Jade didn't move. Her mind was somewhere else, not in the room, not even in the moment. She was back in Aleppo, smoke, screams, the split-second decision that had haunted her every night since. And she finally understood what this was. "This isn't about control," she said quietly. "It's about absolution." Vigil blinked. "What?" "You lost someone," she said. "That's why you built this. You thought if you could remove pain from war, no one would ever feel what you felt again." For a second his mask cracked. "You don't know anything about loss." She met his gaze. "I buried mine every day for years." The silence between them stretched thin. Then Jade lowered her weapon. Rodriguez hissed, "Ma'am." She ignored him, stepping closer to Vigil. "You're right, I was your proof, your miracle, but you made one mistake." "And what's that?" he asked. "You taught me how to break the code." Before he could react, she reached past him and slammed her hand onto the console. Sparks erupted. The monitors flashed red. Thompson shouted, "She's triggering a purge." "Exactly," Jade said. "Ghostlight dies here, all of it." Vigil lunged to stop her, but Rodriguez intercepted him, slamming him to the ground. Alarms screamed. Steam burst from the glass pods. Fluid drained as the figures inside began to stir, confused, gasping, fragile. Not monsters, people. Elena rushed forward. "They're alive, they're human." "Get them out," Jade yelled. Hayes and Thompson pulled emergency levers, releasing the pods. The clones collapsed onto the floor, coughing, trembling like newborns. Elena covered them with blankets, whispering comfort. Vigil struggled against Rodriguez's grip. "You don't understand, you're destroying stability." Jade turned toward him. "No, I'm giving it back." The facility shuddered as systems overloaded. Metal groaned. The floor split in places, sparks raining from overhead cables. "Evac," Rodriguez shouted. They moved fast, dragging Vigil, guiding the rescued subjects, racing through corridors that trembled like the world was exhaling its last breath. At the exit, Halo appeared, rifle in hand. Extraction vehicle ready. Jade stopped beside her. "You didn't leave." Halo shook her head. "Directive updated, protect life." Jade smiled faintly. "Then let's go." They burst into the blinding daylight as the complex behind them erupted in a plume of fire and dust. The shockwave rolled across the desert, throwing heat and debris into the air. From the safety of the ridge, Jade watched the facility collapse inward, the final breath of ghostlight. Rodriguez exhaled. "It's over." Jade shook her head slowly. "It's never over, but it's ended." Elena stood beside her, eyes on the horizon. "You destroyed everything you were." Jade's gaze softened. "No, I destroyed what they made me." Hayes looked back toward the rising smoke. "Command's going to call us deserters for this." "Maybe," Jade said. "Or maybe they'll finally see what happens when you let machines make moral choices." The wind picked up, scattering sand across their boots. Halo turned her face toward the sun, eyes squinting as if seeing it for the first time. Jade watched her, her reflection, her shadow, her redemption. "What will you do now?" Halo considered the question, then said simply, "Live." And somehow, that single word carried more strength than any order ever could. Hours later, they stood by the transport, ready to leave the desert behind. The rescued subjects were asleep, wrapped in blankets, their breathing steady. Rodriguez leaned against the vehicle, watching Jade. "You ever think about going back?" "To the Navy?" He nodded. She smiled faintly. "You don't go back from death, you just learn how to walk in daylight again." Elena approached, holding a small recorder. You should tell your story someday. Let people know what really happened. Jade looked toward the burning horizon. No, let them believe whatever gives them peace. The truth isn't for headlines. Hayes smirked. So what is it for? Jade turned to her team, the people who had become her proof that empathy wasn't weakness, that resilience didn't always roar. It's for us, she said softly, for anyone who ever had to lose themselves just to find what was worth saving. They boarded the transport as the sun began to set, a dying flame turning the desert to gold. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the engine was steady, almost like a heartbeat. Jade closed her eyes and let the warmth touch her face. For the first time in years, it didn't feel like interrogation light. It felt like grace. Somewhere deep inside, the voices she'd carried, the ones that screamed in her dreams, the ones that whispered in guilt, went quiet. Not gone, just at peace. The world outside blurred as the transport sped across the endless plain. Behind them, ghost light was gone. Ahead of them, only sky. And in that fragile silence between past and future, Jade whispered words no one else heard. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts.